It is finally the final day. We're putting the liner in today, no matter what. I'm going to get the hose and wet down all the sand, and then I'm going to start on that end with the trowel and just work my way back, and then we will get the liner in. Okay, let's see how this goes. I have no idea what I'm doing, so we're going to learn together. All I know is I saw that you're supposed to get the sand wet. I think this is not wet enough. I'll be watching out for rocks and sticks and things while I'm in here. Yeah, we gotta get this more wet. I'm making sure to go up on that cove a little bit. I'll build up the sand around that. Yeah, we need more water. I think we need a lot more. Okay, we're gonna do the liner. Instructions say, well, starting up here, it says remove all stakes, blah, 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 remove stones, loose end, overhang outside of pool by 12 inches, fold in and unfold liner down the middle of pool as you would a carpet. I don't like the idea of getting back in the pool now that all my footprints and things are smoothed out, but we're just gonna follow the instructions. And then saying working in both directions from the point where the liner is overhanging, unfold liner, drape over the pool rail down the sides approximately 24 inches. The liner should be barely above the pool floor in the center only. We'll have to guesstimate that since we have a deep end. Remember that the center seam of the pool liner must be positioned at the center line of the pool. Bottom edge seam should be inside the pool about 12 inches from top rails. Okay, so it should overhang the sides about 24 inches, and the bottom edge seam should be 12 inches inside the top rails. And we've got a whole bunch of binder clips and pieces of cardboard here. That's what we're going to use to clip to the sides here. So, yep, and then we'll start filling. Let's get to it. It says do not open with knife. That's probably good advice. So this is a little tool I've got that you can hook what you need under it, and the plastic part stays against the thing you don't want to cut. So I can't do it with one hand, but oh, there it goes. It was easy. Looks like the end of it is here, so it's going to unroll this way. So I don't know, I think we'll maybe just set it up here on the railing, and then I'll get in the pool and try to roll it out to the other end. We're having a lot of trouble with this liner. For one thing, there are no markings on it at all that would tell you where center is. So we've had to play with it quite a bit. And then I finally just barely spotted a seam in the middle here. There's kind of a seam that goes all around the edges to mark where the transition up the wall. And then coming off of that, so starting way down there, there's another seam that is in the center that goes all the way through. So I just happened to spot that when we were moving things around, and that's what we have now tried to line up to be center here on both sides. So that helped a lot, but it's still, we're really fighting to get this here. Like this is so tight to try to get it over this. We still haven't stretched it over that. I'm confident we can now. We just haven't done it yet, but it still has to stretch a lot more. It's supposed to not be touching the ground at all. It should be stretched completely over the top of this thing, and then as you fill it with water, it stretches. The liner is in, and we are filling it up. We didn't get it stretched out like it's meant to be. It's meant to stretch out so it's not even touching the shallow end over there, but we could not get it. We got it pretty good. If you look at the side, we got it stretched down. They say 2 feet ish over the side, and that's we got that, but it's still not stretched like it's meant to. But I think it's okay. It's definitely suspended over the deep end, and that's gonna make everything stretch out first. So I'm hoping once that fills up some more, it's gonna take care of that wrinkle in the middle and everything else. It was a lot of work trying to get this stretched around. Just had to go around and around and around, and little by little, a few inches at a time, getting over the edge. Disappointed though that there wasn't any markings for center. I don't know if you can even see right down the middle here. There's sort of like you can just kind of see some lines. That we figured out is the center. So even that seam that I talked about finding, well, it turns out there's 2 of them. There's one here-ish and one here-ish. Seems to be going pretty well. There's some wrinkles on the sides here, especially the corners. I kind of tried to get rid of them, but they're not going away. I guess that was to be expected. It's way better than the last one was, though. There were wrinkles all through the whole thing. So I can live with these few little ones. I've started to let it in a little bit. I don't know if you can kind of make out, you can kind of see these lateral lines in the liner. I've just sort of been looking at those for where the high spots are to see which area to let in first. Shallow area is looking really good. Those little wrinkles, if you can see them in there, those are actually the fold lines from the packaging, from when it was packaged up, and they're not going away. I'm sure if we were able to get the liner stretched out better to begin with, maybe those would go away as the water stretched it out, but they didn't. So once this reaches the sides and starts to go up the wall, I'll wait until it's about a foot up the wall, and then I'll shut the hose off, and we'll start taking the railings off and wrapping the liner around like it's supposed to be. It's about 7:30 at night now. Still going well. Just keep gradually letting it in. About every half an hour or so, I come out here and find the high spots, referencing the pattern, and just kind of let it in. It's at the point now, actually, where I think it doesn't really matter if you find the high spots, because it is what it is. The bottom is so locked into where it's going to be now that it's going to be that way. So you can see these railings are really getting pulled up this way as the weight of the water starts pulling on it. And I expected that to happen. That's why where we clip these is closest to this, because this actually has a bracket holding it down. You could just bend this right off. Okay, the pool is filled up about 28 inches off not the deep end, but the bottom, the part that's level all around. The instructions say to fill it 24 inches and then stop. I fell asleep last night with the hose on, so we got a few more inches, but I don't see that being a problem, but we're about to find out. I just reread the instructions, and it says don't remove more than 3 of these top rails at a time. So I'm going to remove this one, that one, and that one, along with these top the cup holders, and the metal top plate that's under here as well. And then we'll get the liner folded over the wall and put these are called coping strips. This goes over the liner. I'll show all this to you, and then put everything back together. So Instructions went out of their way to say how important it is to not let the liner fall back into the pool. But it's just me and my wife, and someone's got to watch the kids so that the other can make some progress on this. So I'll see how this goes. Man, you will really tear up your knuckles trying to pry these things off. Oh, that moved a lot. Huh, wonder what that means. Huh. A little scary how much that shifted, though. Maybe that's why they say not to fill it up more than 24 inches, just so you don't have to fight it so much to get it back. That's one gripe I have about the instructions. Actually, all instructions. They never explain why. They say, very important, don't do this, but just tell me why, you know? It's really important context that just kind of ties the whole thought together. You're just told blindly not to do something. I mean, I would be okay with an appendix sort of thing, an asterisk at the bottom. Just, tell me in the instructions why the things you say are important are actually important. How is this supposed to pop off? Why won't that come off of it? Oh. Maybe I can get this off with the next one. There. Okay, much better. Okay, so now the problem I'm running into is I have more of this little fold showing over here than I do there, which just means there isn't as much going back through. But how do I, manage that? They sure make this look easy in the video. That's why I'm making this one. Alright, that is not good. Okay, look at this. This thing it's like it's turned or bent within that. I can't turn it. I'll have to get a tool to pry that apart. Okay, that's how it's going to be. Okay, so the problem I have currently is how do I continue on? How do I, when I'm satisfied with where this is at, and I've got all these rails put back on, and I want to put the top rails back on, what do I do here? I can't connect this to that one because I can't fold this over until I get the next section out. And I'd be up against the same thing on that side. I'd be fine putting this rail back on and just working like 2 sections at a time and coming back to this and finishing it, just leaving it unfinished under the railing. But what do I do about this? I think what I'm going to try to do is start here, because at these side supports, that's where this stuff, there's a break. It begins right here. There's just one of those pieces that go between each of these and they don't connect. So I think I'm going to try to put it back together, start at this point, and work my way around that way. Yeah, this seems to be working out a lot better. So starting here, where those, whatever they're called, that kind of maintain the shape of this, start, I'm able to butt this right up to there then and just wrap this up over the rest. I did have to unclip quite a bit of this in order to get this straight enough to fold over. So there's that. But now that I have, well into this section, I'm just gonna pop that thing back onto here. Maybe one more I'll go out, and then I'll put this section back on, and then take that section off and just keep going around to the opposite side. That's my plan. I don't know if it's normal. I've got this much excess here and only this much here, but it seems like it's doing the right thing on the inside. I think it's just because of the curve and how it ended up stretching. Maybe something to do with the deep end, I don't know, but I'll keep going and let you know. Okay, a little over halfway done, and I think I've gotten pretty good at this. So let me teach you what I've learned. So it is definitely only supposed to stick out on this end about 1.5 inches, so really just below where the coping strip is. But you don't have to be quite so exact with the whole thing right away, the whole section that you're doing right there. You do have to make sure that enough is unclipped over on that side that you're not fighting the material to try to get it to overlap as much as you need to. So what I've been doing, if I take one of these strips, it's going to be overlapped about like that. So right here is the end of it. So this is the point I'm going to kind of focus on. So that's about as much that's going to need to hang over, but you also have to consider how much you want to stretch it on this end. In this case, this is good. This is the right amount. But in some cases, if I'm trying to get rid of a wrinkle or something, you got to really pull this up, and then you'd be left with more. So you got to kind of plan for that. But here, this is good. I'll go a touch more, just like that. And then I'll take a coping strip. I'll put it on there, and then not really even worrying about the rest of this, just like that. And now, if I do look in, if there are a wrinkle or something in here, this is a really good smooth section. Once we get over to the corners, there'll be a little bit more to do, but we can always go back here, kind of get your fingers under, lift up, pull, and down. And then this is a come up a little bit, but you can just push it back down, and then we've got more material sticking out. So you can go back and kind of work your way, work those wrinkles out when you find them. And then I'm going to go one more of these out, and then I'll put another one of these. I forget what these are called, but I'll put one more of these on, and then I can put this plate back on and that railing, and then take off another one. And I'm just kind of putting one back on, taking one off, just working my way around. These cup holders that are on the flat part, the side parts here, are really hard to get off. On the corners, you can just get your fingers under there and wedge it off pretty easy, but on the flat parts I have to use this tool. So this is the one spot along all of these side supports, the ones that are cemented in. These ones I can't do by myself, because in order to get the liner, in order to get this wrapped around here, I have to have someone push this wall out and hold it there while I wrap it around and then let it back slowly. And it's easy enough to, do that, but man, if your thumb or something is inside there when this snaps back, it really pinches. I suppose you could probably set a block of wood in there, but that might be hard then to, once you're ready to release it, to hold the liner, remove the block, and bring it back. I don't know. There's probably a way, but way easier with two people. So I'm working on getting these cup holders back on. These things just, slip onto there. And each of them have this little tab under it that's supposed to go down into this hole. So if you're struggling with this, trying to get it to sit on there right, after you pop it on, these just snap around on this over the railing. Then you can kind of wiggle it back and forth, and it'll pop down into there. But on these flat parts, there's nowhere for it to go. There's a hole that it's supposed to go in, but it's blocked by the railings. So what we're going to have to do That should do it. Okay, so next step is installing the skimmer. However, looking at this, it looks kind of weird and deformed, and just looking up in here, I can see now that this forming bar, whatever, it came off. It's not around here. So I'm going to take off this top railing and see what's going on. Feels fine. Okay, so we got this one back on, but in trying to pull these back together to screw it on, more popped off over here. So I'm going to get this one back on and then start working our way back to the side supports. Okay, that took some critical thinking. This up here, it kept falling off of this. So it would you would get it, and then the wall would pop itself out of that track. And if we got this side in, then this one would pop out, and then the other one all the way down the line. So what we ended up doing to make it work is untelescoping these a little bit. So it basically made the ring a little bit bigger, and then just temporarily throwing these pieces of duct tape on there to hold it on until we got the top rail back on. Now when we're done, we'll go back and zip that off right there so we can't see it, but it's all in now. Now we can go back to the skimmer. First step with the skimmer is getting this little flap on, so I got that done. Now we need to cut the hole. So I'm going to have Jesse hold a piece of plywood on the inside here, right there against that, so that I can razor blade around this, and we'll get that cut out. Okay, now I'm going to very carefully cut out the overlap, this part here. This is what you know, the liner came around the edge of the pool, then wrapped back around and looped down again, and this is the end of it. Now I'm going to trim this out all the way around where the gasket's going to sit, so that the gasket is only sitting consistently against one layer of liner. Otherwise that could make a leak. Okay, we gotta get this gasket in here now. So this gasket is like double layered like that. It unfolds, and so this has to grab the wall and the liner all together all the way around. And there's a top to bottom to this, so this little cutout goes on the bottom and makes room for the cleaner hosey thingy. Okay, then we're putting this little guy in there. Huh, that really has to go. Oh, that's gonna be tough. Edges of the pool wall is so sharp, I'd hate to, it seems like it'd be easy to damage one of these. Alright, so the next thing it says to do is to poke holes through these top corner pieces. Alright, now we should be able to get the faceplate on there. Let's see if I can get this just started. That's on there now with two screws. Okay, so now it says to take the skimmer body. We're going to put this right on here and just lightly attach it. 2 screws we've got in there. So I lightly tightened these, and I could see the gasket kind of starting to deform on the inside, so I backed them off a little. It's still hanging, but I think I'm going to have to finagle with that a little bit. Okay, now we're just going to do the rest of the screws like that. Use the nail to poke a hole through. I'm having to kind of manipulate the gasket as I'm poking those holes to make everything line up just right. And it seems a little bit like the skimmer is sitting a little low in some spots. I don't know. Okay, so I don't have these tightened down yet. They're just snugged in there, but you can see how it's kind of going in at an angle. Like this one has to be, this one's kind of going up and out just slightly. This bottom one is going down and out. Opposite is true on that side. So I really had to kind of play around and fight with what angle these screws all needed to be in order to find the hole in the skimmer. So watch out for that. Engineering on this is not perfect. Yeah, I have all the screws tightened up now. I just kind of kept going around in a star pattern and, opposite sides to opposite sides. Slowly increasing the torque on the drill as I went, and it's not even super tight now. I don't want to crack the plastic, but it is what I think it should be. I don't really like how the gasket is sort of pushing out here and here. I don't know, the gasket just I wish it seated a little better in there. See over here on this side, it kind of starts and goes behind and then comes back out. Does the same thing over there. I don't know, it just doesn't, there's kind of a weird gap right here where there's not over there, but I already think that I stripped out one of the screws here, even though, I didn't even, wasn't very tight at all, but this one's just spinning now. I don't know. It does not sit well with me, but I was about as delicate as I could be with it. We'll see if it leaks. Okay, let's work on this return fitting. Okay, so it says to hold this against here, so the hose fitting is straight up, and then thread this in from the other side. And as soon as this is snug, then we turn this all the way until it's down. Now, I happen to know that with our pump setup, I'm going to want this kind of like that. So, okay, last part of this. You take this guy, put it in here, and then hold this on right through there. That's going to be the return fitting. And then just screw this on, and then we'll be able to direct this a little bit. It says to make sure it's directed away from the skimmer. So it is several weeks later. The pool is all up and going, but I had to come back and tell you about the problems we ran into with the skimmer because it did leak. So we ended up having to drain it again down below the point of the skimmer so that we could work on it and figure that out. But what was interesting is that the return jet was also leaking, and all that is you just thread that together, so there's not screws to line up or anything. So that was interesting. So what I figured was the problem here was that foam padding that we put along the wall. So I went and cut that out so that it's just the liner and the wall in between the gasket, and now that's perfectly good. And I did the same thing here on the skimmer, but I also discovered once taking it apart that the screws were not in the right place. Seemed like they were, but what happened was, this is just molded plastic. So inside here, it's hollow except for where the screws are meant to thread in. And what had happened was the screw was actually threading into this place to the space between what's molded for the screw and the rest of the housing here. So once one was off, the rest of them were off too, and that's what was causing the misalignment of all the screws, and the gasket wasn't seated right. So I discovered that, and you see now the gasket is sitting much more evenly across everything, and it's not leaking. So watch out for that. Learn from me. And that is a wrap on our pool build. Thank you guys so much for following along. If there's any questions I didn't answer along the way, please put them in the comments. I'm happy to help out wherever I can. There's a lot of little things that didn't make the videos. There's just too much to say. Lots of little things. In the future, we still have a solar cover to install. Probably do a video on cleaning it and winterizing it, opening it up in the spring, things like that. Anything specific you want to see, please let me know. Thanks for watching, guys. Thank you so much.